Dobrý den, vážení účastníci naší konference, vítáme vás na druhém dni. Jenom připomínám, že jsme tady pro ty, co jsou tady třeba dnes poprvé na konferenci s názvem Future of Non-Formal a můžeme k tomu přidat i Formal Education 2024. A po včerejším dni, kdy jsme řešili především nějaké workshopy a následnou panelovou diskuzi, která rozpracovávala témata představená studentským parlamentem Plzeňského kraje, tak jak by si představovali, aby se změnilo vzdělávání, tak dnes budeme pokračovat blokem přednáškovým, který naváže na ta témata, která byla představena včera. Protože ta konference je mezinárodní, tak je vždycky fajn mít na mezinárodní konferenci příspěvek, který zazní v cizím jazyce a bude přednášen zahraničními lektory. A to nastane právě teď, protože první příspěvek dnešního dne se jmenuje Meet Gen Z, Who They Are and Why They Matter. Je to příspěvek, který přednese mezinárodní skupina. Jako první začne paní Hana Dux-Blašková z Fakulty mezinárodních vztahů Vysoké školy ekonomické za Gen Z Data. Dále to bude Martin Landgren ze Švédska z organizace Celemi, který se připojí distančně a řekne nám, jak to vypadá dle jejich zkušeností ve Švédsku. A mezinárodní pohled také přidá Albena Spasová z Bulharska a nakonec
Balázs Koren z EduTech Cluster Hungary, tedy z Maďarska.
My jsme už včera problematiku generační tak trochu začali diskutovat. Mimo jiné v té naší panelové diskuzi, kde jsme se snažili přiblížit vám pohled nás generace X, případně generace Z, mileniálů, ve vztahu k názoru generace Z, kterou tady představovala v naší panelové diskuzi Aneška. Pokud jste si neúplně jistí tím, jaké je označování těch generací, tak jsem se snažil připravit takovou tabulku, kde vidíte, že generací Z to nekončí, ale že od roku 2010 už hovoríme o další generaci, o generaci alfa. Takže pojďme se podívat na tom, jak vidíme v České republice a i na mezinárodní pohled toho, jak vnímáme generaci Z. Pozveme prvního přednášejícího.
A pozveme tedy paní Blaškovou. Dobrý den. I would definitely go with opportunity because for us thinking about future is really important and we are looking for new opportunities in technology or new education processes. So I think opportunity is really the word we would go with. And I also think connected is a really important word because of the digital technologies we have. So the connection between us, between friends around the world is really, really strong. And maybe also need of well-being, not because we need more well-being than your generation, but because we ask our colleagues and friends for well-being. So we are in need of well-being and we make it obvious that we need well-being.
Thank you. An answer. What is it for you, Pavel?
Maybe just one comment, because there are the word expression snowflakes, and we already mentioned it yesterday. So what do you think about this expression? Is it quite impolite to your generation, or does it fit?
To be honest, we just make fun of this statement because for us it's an expression how your generation views our ability to ask for well-being or stuff that makes us feel better. Like we are not afraid to talk about this, so it may seem like we are snowflakes, but to be honest, I think it's much more harder to ask for well-being and for those stuff, and to express ourselves that we don't feel good, and that's much harder than just keeping it inside you. So, yes.
Gosh, thank you for that. I mean, like, that was such an interesting insight. What I love is that the core expression that came up there is open mind. And overall, the positivity bias is stronger in this room. So I can see that we have a lot of generation optimism in the room, and I love that. Hopefully, we'll dive into some labels during the talk, and by the end of this talk, you'll learn to love your Gen Z even better and understand them better. Can we go to the talk, please? Yeah. Gen Z people born between 1997 and 2010 or 2012. Do we have Generation Z in the room? Are there? Could you give me a wave of hand? Okay, cool. You are underrepresented, but at least we'll be talking about you, not without you, basically. 1997 is actually a cut-off year for that particular generation, for Generation Z. And it is a cut-off year for a good reason, because these are the core events that had a huge influence on Generation Z. The key influence really being is the proliferation of smartphones. These kids were born with iPhones. They had their phones from the crib, basically. And it is the first true digital generation out there. Proliferation of iPhones, then there are other influences that shaped this generation equally. Growing up, the ground started shaking for them quite early on with 2008 recession. It rattled their sense of financial security to the core. Then there are political, there are climate, and there are social turmoils and social instabilities that again made the world feel more threatened and less of a safe place. When this generation entered their young formative years, COVID pandemic happened. And it turned up everything. Jobs, relationships, and school. So it's another huge influence that we have to count in. All these influences, I believe, shaped the Generation Z into a generation that is open, flexible, highly pragmatic, and they are purpose-driven generation. They're seeking some sense, as you were like, as was one of the comments or one of the keywords in the word cloud. They are sense seekers. They want their life to have sense. They're not just focused on success. Snowflakes, here we go, right? I'm sick and tired of this term when it ties to fragility and an inflated sense of uniqueness, just as you are. I think that you just kind of manifested it. It's a fun term for you. Why I like the term is that it sort of explains, or in a different analogy, that is, I'm often asked, why are we talking so much about Generation Z? I don't know, have you noticed the talk about previous generation to the same extent? Not really. And the question is, why they matter? How do they deserve that much attention? And I think that like one of the reasons is the sheer number of them. There is 2.5 billion Generation Z, Gen Zers, globally. They are the largest, the most connected generation and the most diverse generation in human history. They make up 32% of global population. And they are the generation, as I said, that is hyper-connected, meaning that there are less of a difference between Generation Z standing right here and Generation Z in other countries. You may say, okay, in the Czech Republic, the number is not that large. We just have like 1.3, 1.1 million. Those are the estimates for Generation Z. And it's just like 11%, but it's the only young adults that we have. So we need to pay attention, I guess. Talking about Generation Z, the picture wouldn't be complete without looking at the aspect of diversity. They are the most diverse and most acceptant of differences in, again, like a generation. If you look at the US statistics, it's like 50% of the US generation are not white Caucasians, but belongs to racial minorities. And that is pretty much the picture also for Europe. And when we were, why this matters for us is, again, this is a hyper-connected generation. So whatever happens elsewhere has a definite imprint on whatever happens in the Czech Republic as well. The beauty is that this generation is truly acceptant of diversity. It's not just a word for them, and they appreciate differences in a genuine manner. And I'm kind of practically hopping up with excitement. I could talk for a long time, or I could talk with you about Generation Z for a long time, and I would love to. But Irena is hopefully watching out for me, right, and for my time management. So we're just going to look at 5 key areas or 5 key defining traits for this particular generation. Number 1, we already mentioned. This is a purpose-driven generation. They're not the first one to seek meaning. Millennials were the first ones to start asking question why. But this generation is also not just with their head up in the clouds, but this particular generation is down to earth, is pragmatic. So it's an interesting combination. First, true digital natives, activists or empathists, people with, who actually wage real influence over what happens in the world. Sometimes not in the most productive manner, but there's a lot of energy out there. Entrepreneurs, the most entrepreneurial generation out of all the generations that we have currently. School and workplace misfits, sometimes. Why? There might be reasons. Let's unpack each of these a little bit. First, true digital natives. What does it come with? Being wired, being connected from youth, resulted in some cognitive superpowers, like faster processing and the ability to multitask way better than previous generations, if you look at comparisons. These superpowers come at a cost. There is a blind side to it, which I'm sure you as teachers recognize, and that is actually the ability to focus. That is diminished, right? And I believe that Albena is going to address that in her talk some more, but we're talking, like the combination of these for you as teachers presents new opportunities and new challenges. Then you're producing content, you'll know that your Gen Zers will appreciate video material to learn a new skill in a way, in a more pronounced way than previous generations. And you will also know that if you want them to focus, you will need to present that as sound bites, way like smaller nuggets of wisdom, as my friend Peťa Moravec from Project U likes to say, nuggets of wisdom. I like that because they can be small. People from generations that are able to concentrate on videos, roughly the length of 2 to 6 minutes. In comparison with millennials, it was twice the size. It's a huge difference, really. But at the same time, they're able to work on 8 different screens. And they're very, very good at multitasking. My generation can handle, I'm Generation X, born 1975, right? My generation can handle 5 screens less, just 3. So, yeah, I'm taking my hat off to you, Anishka, right? Wouldn't like to compete in that way. I was talking about them being first true digital natives, being connected, being wired from youth, results in incredible opportunities for very young people to wage enormous social influence. And I don't know if you know the story of Malala, right? Malala, a girl in Pakistan who, when Taliban came at the age of 15, she stands up and talks for women to have the same right for education, equal right to equal access to education. And at the age of 15, she becomes a worthy target for Taliban to shoot at. Wow, I mean, like, who would otherwise, like, kind of want to shoot a 15-year-old girl? She survives the attack, and at the age of 17, she becomes the first Nobel Prize laureate. Wouldn't have been possible without the power of social media, and it wouldn't have been possible for any of the previous generation to have that amount of influence that early in life. So what we see in this generation is a lot of energy and activism, a lot of social concern. And they sometimes are called change generation because we are looking at them to change the world for better. They're very active, not always veering their energy to the most productive, in the most productive manner. So we have obviously some stupid examples. A couple of years ago, you remember the girls who, in the name of climate and saving the climate through a can of tomato soup, at the picture at Van Gogh's sunflowers, right? So sometimes the energy can misfire. The truth is, if you go to the workplace and look at a recent Deloitte study, they in the Czech Republic will basically have more influence, putting a lot of pressure on their employers to change or take clear action towards climate change. So I think that their influence cannot be underestimated. And it's all connected into one big bubble. It's not just social influence, it's not just kind of climate activism, it's also a hugely entrepreneurial mindset that they're coming with. And they turned into the youngest entrepreneurs ever, and funnily enough, into the most entrepreneurial generation out there. It might have been the financial insecurity that gave them an independent mindset. It's definitely the social environment or social media that gives you or gives them an opportunity to learn from each other, to get new stimuli, and also to wage, again, huge amounts of influence economically before, something that wasn't possible before. If you look at it, just a comparison of the two closest generations, 72% of Gen Zs want to be their own bosses, want to own their own business rather than work for someone. And if you look at other generations, they also believe that Generation Z has a stronger entrepreneurial ability than the older generations. I think this is great news in terms of creativity and open-mindedness. It's not such a good news for traditional workplace. If they're all startups, who's going to work in the Škodovka? Knows, right? Have some examples there. I have our funder from company Project U that is heavily invested in Generation Z, and I hope that Anna will talk more about what we do. We're people. We have like part of that is our own generation, and we have Gen Zers as well on board. And this is Arfanda, who actually started the business at 16, producing bow ties, and has a bow tie shop. Can you make money doing that? You can actually make loads of money, which that follows a story from the States where Mosiah Bridges, Mosbos, who does the exactly same thing, set up a business at 6 years of age. At 8, pitched in a Shark Tank, and got loads of money to start his own business, and he's a big shot millionaire. So all this basically produced a new category, a whole new category of Forbes under 20. If you check your Instagram, you'll find that particularly new category of people. Entrepreneurship, when you're putting on your teacher's hat, if you can support this particular set of skills in a particular manner in your classroom, please do, because they already have a great set of skills to start with. You probably noticed that this is a very optimistic presentation, and sometimes I think we are often troubled by what generations that's going through, and we're very often focusing on the problems they have. What I'd like to bring to your attention is the specific superpowers. Vlastimil Volák yesterday, he was like, I loved what he had there. He had an overview of what we say about our kids, or about the Gen Zers. Not good enough, don't know what we know, learn worse than we're accustomed to, less productive. So let's look at, okay, so maybe they don't know or can't do what we can do, but maybe they can do and know what we can't do, our own generation. Look, let's look at the synergies. If you want me, I'll send you later all the resources, but there's a number of studies. Maybe the biggest one is Capgemini study from the year 2022, and that looked at all the generations, across generations, and it looked at the ability to problem solve in scenarios that were real-world scenarios. Generation Z emerged as the one that has best creative problem-solving skills, has the best critical thinking skills, and is most open to flexibility and finding new solutions. So when you said open-mindedness, creativity, then you were very much right. Open to uncertainty, something that is really hard for our generations to tackle. They can do that. 3 other areas where they do better than the preceding generations is the ability to recognize patterns very quickly. If you give them a task that is ill-defined and is real world, they recognize the pattern easily, and they also can work with data better than we can do. Surprisingly, they're better at collaboration than millennials, and they're better at arriving at solutions together across collaborative platforms. I think what it brought on is something that I call Gen Z effect, and that is something that it brings to your classroom as well, and that is reverse mentoring. What can a 16-year-old from Klatovy advise to the board of managers at Tesco's? That is a question, right? This is a month ago, I was, or 2 weeks ago, I was at Green Hackathon organized by CHEPS, Tesco's, and Prague AI. And these guys, these 16-year-olds, are one of the winners of the whole challenge. So if you can't see the first row of the judges, but they are gray-haired people sitting in there looking a little bit like Milan Edel, right? And they're looking for that solution. And they're listening to a 16-year-old delivering that solution. So I think that what it teaches us is we can bring this to the classroom. Maybe we want to listen to them more. Maybe we know more than we expect. Very quickly, maybe just kind of something that you know way more about than I do, but how they see education when we are complaining about them. And I think you gave me the answer before. They always question and asking, how does this make sense? Why am I learning this? And that is our experience. That is maybe why we are not benefiting that much as we would like to. This is what they see at my university. This is a result of 2020 study we did, and we were looking at what do you miss? What do you miss in education? And the biggest complaint when we ask the alumni, this is when you're asking people who are already out of school, what did you miss? The majority said, we lack the connection. There is a huge disconnect between what we learn in the classroom and what happens in the real world. And when I talked to my student, who's a friend of mine as well, he said, you don't have to talk about future skills. No. Talk about the skills we need now in the workplace. Talk about what's happening now, and that will be enough, right? Because sometimes we don't know what they're going to need. Nobody knows exactly what they're going to need. That's why World Economic Forum every year comes up with a new report. And you probably heard of reskilling revolution. By 2027, 1 billion people in the workplace will need to acquire a new skill set. That's a revolution, I guess. If you look at the particular areas that these skills are, and I'm very happy to, as I said, like later share the presentation with you. The core skills, the skills that are given the priority are analytical skills, creative skills, or creative solving, something that Generation Z is already very good at, and something that we can help them with. And the third category goes into the area of self-management. And I know from Irena that Aneška mentioned it yesterday, right? As one of the areas where you want to grow in the areas of resilience, agility, and Vlastimil Volák mentioned it yesterday when he talked about curiosity and lifelong learning. So I think these are the areas where we can definitely help our students with. And maybe they can help us in the area of analytical thinking and creative problem solving. I'm not saying that at the baseline mathematics or reading and writing goes somewhere and disappears. It's a baseline competence, but then we have to build on this. The world is definitely changing. And never change that the fact that is stronger than it was ever before is the changing role of a teacher. Teacher, no longer as a preacher or imparter of knowledge, but as a game master, as a leader, and as a facilitator and networker. I said before, maybe they don't have to know everything. Maybe we don't have to know everything. We can't. But we can connect them to people and opportunities who know that particular area. We know somebody who's a fantastic game master. One of the fantastic game masters sitting with us in the room. And I learn a lot from him. He's the founder of Project U, which is our company heavily invested in Generation Z and is sitting right in that corner. So that's Peťa Moravec, can you maybe, Petja, just wave? So if you want to catch a conversation later, there is not many people that I can recommend more highly. And another person who is a fantastic game master and who can help us become game masters as well is Martin Landgren, another friend of ours, and a person who will lead us through experiential learning right now. So thank you very much. And we're very happy to, no, doesn't matter. It's okay. We're very happy to talk with you later. This is our startup that is geared towards helping teachers and helping students with programs geared towards entrepreneurship and leadership, another key area. Thank you very much.
Děkujeme paní Haně Dux-Blaškové za úvod do tohoto tématu. Já jenom bych to rád okomentoval, jak jsme viděli ten graf, kde byly zobrazené ty skills, které preferují příslušníci generace Z. My máme na škole, implementujeme vzdělávací systém, který se jmenuje International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. To znamená, jsem ve velmi úzkém kontaktu s českým národním kurikulem a s kurikulem v tomto vzdělávacím programu. A mimo jiné teda to kurikulum toho programu IB se přepracovává každých 5 let, tak aby reflektovalo aktuální potřeby těch příslušných generací, které jsou vyučovány. A žáci tam dostávají jen opravdu, jednak teda z toho kurikula, pokud se bavíme o biologii, byly vyřazeny věci, které jsou v podstatě nepodstatné pro ty žáky, to znamená jakýkoliv biologický systém tam není, ale je tam fokusováno na základy toho oboru. A žáci dostávají jen trochu té teorie a všechno ostatní získávají během procesu nějaké explorace, database question, kdy jsou nuceni odvozovat ty věci a následně máme zpětnou vazbu, že taková výuka, která posouvá to myšlení na vyšší úrovně Bloomovy taxonomie kognitivních procesů, je pro ně extrémně zajímavá a daleko použitelnější. Takže děkuji.
And I think that we can now give a floor to you, Mr. Landgren. Welcome.
Děkuji moc. Jak se máte? Dobré ráno. So my name is Martin Landgren, and I represent the Swedish company Selemi. And I will today speak about our learning methodology that we call the power of learning, and it's all about learning by doing. But first, let me congratulate you to the gold of ice hockey in the World Championships. I'm very jealous. We are longing for a gold as well in Sweden, but you were the best team for sure. And also, last night, I just have to tell you, this guy, that was amazing. If you didn't see the javelin, check out the rerun. The last throw made the gold for this guy. So that's a lot of power in this man. He's a worthy successor of Jan Železný. But today it's about another power. It's the power of learning. So I would like to take you back to where it all started for us. It's in the 1970s in a very small town in Sweden. And at that time, our founding father, Claes Melander, he was working as a school teacher and was very frustrating that his students found it boring to learn the map of Europe. And he was pointing at a big poster on the wall and they were yawning. They found it boring. So he went home, he took 2 big maps and he cut them into pieces. So the next days when the student came into the classroom, it looked different. There was a big space in the middle with 2 piles of small puzzle pieces on the floor. Then he said, "Girls against the boys, this is a competition. The first one to complete your puzzle wins." And Claes, he stood in the corner of the room, transferring the responsibility of the learning to the students. A couple of girls, they put 2 pieces together and the boys became stressed and all of a sudden everybody was involved. Cheating is allowed. Just as in real life, you may check out what the competition is doing. And they both solved their puzzles together by cheating, of course, and learning in a social way. And Claes Melander later then wrote a book about this new learning method, and he called this the power of learning. And this revolutionized the school system in Sweden, and it was also copied in many other countries. So then he came with a brilliant idea, why not cut a company into pieces. And he put them together as a game board. And this was a visualization of the balance sheet. So quite simply, but the first real business simulation in the world was born, and Selimi was created as well. And when I say business simulation, I mean a real simulation. That means no element of luck, but an experience similar to chess. So no scores, no black box. And if you make a move, the other teams in the room will have to make a move as well. And the best team will win. I'm not showing you this little comic strip here. And there is a picture in the upper left corner of two little boys. The one boy, he says, I have taught Spot to whistle, and Spot is the dog. The other guy responds, I can't hear him whistling. What do you think he says in the last speech bubble? I've taught Spot to whistle, but I didn't say that he had learned. And this is quite typical. We learn in different ways. You may feel you're doing a great job as a teacher, communicating something to somebody, but how do you really know that your way of communicating is matching their way of learning? So we need to speak a language that everybody can understand. And I'm now going to show you something that will be very frustrated for some of you and maybe very clear to some of you as well. I have here a man pointing at a picture, and he says, this man's father is my father's only son. I now ask all of you in the audience, who is in the picture? Think about it. This man's father is my father's only son. Giving you a couple of seconds to think, and I can't see the audience, but I'm just going to throw out a couple of questions to you. Raise your arms, raise your hands if you feel that this could be his father. I'm just imagining the room that maybe not too many people are raising their hands, maybe some are. Now I'm asking you a second option. Could this be himself? Then please stand up if you think it's himself. Really curious to know what the room looks like right now. Do we have some people standing up? Maybe some. I suspect maybe a little bit more than the people who raised their hands. Then we could say also, could this be his son? Then you can raise your hands again. You can sit down if you stood up. So we have three options. We have a father, we have himself, and we have the son. And when we run this exercise, and we run this quite a lot, the room looks very scattered, very different. There are a few people who thinks it's the father. There are quite a lot of people who thinks it's himself. And then there are some people also thinking it's the son. Then we have usually a fourth option, but mainly we have a lot of people who have no idea who it is because this sentence is too complicated. Why can't you just say it in a more simple way? So let's simplify the sentence a little bit. We take away the upper part, this man's father is, and hide it. And then we see if we can simplify the last part by replacing it with one word only. My father's only son, who could that be? Well, my father's only son, it's got to be me, right? I am my father's only son. So if I write me here instead of this more complex sentence, I just replace it with me, then I have not changed the meaning of the sentence. I've just simplified it, and I bring back the upper part again, so it's a little bit easier to read. So now it's a little bit easier to read, but it's not crystal clear. This man's father is me. Now, some of you, your minds are working here in the room. You feel that you know who it is. Some of you do not feel who it is still, because I have overcomplicated this exercise. You know, I've said something really complex from the beginning. So you're just lost. You don't know who it is. But many of you now know actually that this man's father is me. I am this man's father. This is my son. So son is the correct answer. And I would say that a majority of the room, about 50%, is not thinking son, but there are still people who can't see it because the window of communication is closed. If you complicate things in the beginning, people are lost. And even if you say the right thing later on, they are still lost. They're not listening to you any longer. So I'll be happy to share this exercise with you. You can frustrate your colleagues instead. This is in the back of our business cards. This is why we actually are in business. People tend to overcomplicate things in their communication. And look at this guy. He is a manager, and it took him 4 months to come up with a new strategy for his team. So maybe he's a really respected guy, maybe he's super charismatic, and the team might go in that direction for a little while, but it's also very quick and easy to misunderstand somebody who is just communicating like that. And how could they feel what he feels? Because he made a lot of mistakes coming up to this strategy. So he knows that's the right way. But for them, they will fall back into old behavior after a while because they haven't had his learning journey. So it's all about recreating a learning journey and allowing participants to draw their own conclusions. This is the key. So too often, and I love what you said, Hannah, the teacher is the preacher, and it's not the most efficient way. Remember the man in the picture, you know, his way of communicating might not fit for everybody, right? So based only on information, companies today expect their people to just take the right actions. So we're going to throw this away, and instead, we're going to hand over the responsibility of the learning to the participants. Make it participant-driven. Teacher no longer a preacher, but rather a coach or a game master, asking the right questions, creating an amazing environment, allowing the participants to talk to each other, to use a good learning material, explore it, make mistakes, discuss it from different perspectives. And I promise you, in the end, the penny will drop. People will start standing up and they will get excited and they will draw their own conclusions. So this is the key. And to create this safe environment where people feel that they can make mistakes is very, very important. And learning takes practice. You need to do this over and over again until you really feel it, like physical feeling. Just imagine a pilot being in an aircraft. They don't go into the plane immediately. They read a lot about it, right? But first of all, they need to practice, and they practice in a simulator. So it's a simple way to compare why we also do training tools is business simulations. So do you remember Captain Scully with the Hudson River miracle? Of course, he practiced a lot in a simulator to be able to pull off this miracle landing and saving all those people. So he was in a safe environment, and being in a safe environment is crucial. I'll give you one more example. I don't know if you have seen the movie Gran Turismo. I saw it the other day and I thought it was perfect. This guy, he is one of the top 5 people in the world playing this game, Gran Turismo, where it's supposed to be extremely realistic racing course all over the world, and he's sitting in this little machine, and he's just incredible playing the game. So Nissan, they contacted him and some other gamers and let them try to be in a real race car. So for 6 months, they get to practice in a real race car, but that's not a lot of time. But the idea was to see how their skills in the simulation could actually work when they got some real competition from professional race drivers. And the whole competition also said that if you can end up top 5 or something like that, then we will give you a real racing license so you could be on the tour with the other guys. But nobody thought they would make it. He made it. He actually, after 6 months, it became at 4th place in a race. They made a movie about it. And how could he even pull that off? Well, when he practiced in the simulation, he could cut corners and die in the game, take risks that you can't do in real life. So the way he passed the cars, the way he chose to speed at certain parts of the course, he practiced that in a game, because in real life, you couldn't practice that. It would be too dangerous. So there is a lot to gain to be in a simulation. And it's fun too, right? And the last principle here, which I think is crucial to really enable change, is that people understand what they are part of. The big picture understanding is super important. I'm going to show you a fuzzy picture now, all in the audience. You can throw it out in the air, just scream out if you see who it is or what it is that I'm showing here. It's a fuzzy picture of something. And this is quite frustrating because our brains, they want to connect the dots. They want to see the pattern, and we all work in different ways. Some will see this quite quick. Some it will take forever. Some will not see it at all. Do you have any suggestion what this could be? People are thinking, I don't know what you're saying, but that's fine. I have seen responses to this exercise many times, and I can say that most people, they say that they can see a turtle down here. I can't really see the turtle, but a lot of people say they see a turtle down here. I usually see a rabbit up here with the ears, and some people think that this is a world map or an ultrasound picture or something else. There are a lot of people saying different things, but I'm going to show you what it is. And once you see this, it's almost going to be a physical feeling to see what it is. So are you ready? Don't blink. I'm counting to 3. 1, 2, 3. Last time. There you go. So the eyes are over here, the ears are up here. This is the picture of a cow. And once you've seen the cow, it's actually hard to unsee it. So this is almost like a physical feeling. And the brain always strives to create meaning by filling in the missing bits and pieces. It's looking for a meaningful whole. And when you see something meaningful and you react to it, it's almost physically. So this is the aha experience. And it's not until you get this feeling that you can start talking about what you should do differently, how you should apply your new knowledge. And this is really important to wait for. So I'll show you now a picture of one of our games, and you can see how quite complex it could be in a game as well. This is not Monopoly, but it's not too far from it. It's a little bit more complex. Here, these guys, they play the management team of a manufacturing company. So you have your loans, your cash situations here, you have different kind of products. Up here you have several different factories that throws out products in different speed. And then you have your warehouse, your clients, and then you're in different markets. So it's like a circulation of capital going around. It gets stuck everywhere. Only here in cash, in the bank account, it's real money, but otherwise it's stuck. So they get to, in just one day or sometimes 2 days, they get to do all of this that you see here. They take a role. This girl, she's the spy. She's also running around checking out the other tables in the room because they are the competitors. We have a salesperson responsible for these things, finance and accounting, purchasing and production. And when you play a game, you of course take a role that you don't have in your normal job. So you should take another role that you're not used to, because walking in the shoes of somebody else is super important. And it's not like the marketing and salesperson is responsible for this, only that person. They're all responsible for everything. So they need to align on what to do, but it's also good to have some responsibilities. So you can imagine being in a room like this where people walk around and spy on each other, and they play fictive years. So one round is a year that takes about 1 hour. And when the year is over, you debrief the full group, what's going on in your team, what's going on in your team. And a lot of emotions are created. Sometimes we would ask maybe the purchasing and production person to stand up and move to another team because they are now recruited to that team to stir up some feelings. Sometimes they will go run out of cash. They need a bank loan and they need to make their case. So we create an emotional roller coaster. And the purpose with that is this little guy. This looks disgusting, I know. When I ran this in America, somebody says, you know, is this a peanut butter or something? It's not peanut butter. It has the shape of a seahorse, right? It looks like a seahorse, but it's not a seahorse. But seahorses, they belong to the genus Hippocampus. And hippos, it means horse in Greek, and campus means sea monster. So it's not a seahorse, but the name of it is hippocampus. And this is the part of the brain involved in transforming new information into memory. And if you stimulate it with feelings the same time you learn, the learning will stick longer. If you have ever burnt yourself when you put your hand on a hot plate, you will remember this knowledge forever, right? The more you feel while you experience something, the more the learning will stick in your long-term memory. So a learning experience should also be an emotional roller coaster. Just imagine how boring it would be if you would teach your children how to ride a bike using a PowerPoint explaining the different parts of the bike, right? And neither will a learning of the balance sheet using PowerPoint, pointing out the details, be effective or fun. So these are my twins back on my street. Get on the bike, learn by doing, maybe have some supporting wheels and then remove them, fall down a couple of times, scrape your knee. But when you get it, it's a sensational feeling and you will never forget it. And what about finance? Well, become the new management team instead of a company. Have some competitors. Go bankrupt, get back on your feet again, become profitable. You know, go back in time if you made a lot of mistakes and redo it. It does not matter if we do this face to face with physical material, but it helps. The energy in a room can never replace the virtual classroom, but we do this both ways. But what's important here is to rely and stay true to some very important learning principles. So whatever solution we create and what you could create for your students as well, I recommend these 4 learning principles. One is to have some kind of competition, some kind of game, because it really stimulates the engagement and the motivation throughout the whole session. So it should be the right dose, not too much, right? But it's super important. And another core principle is that solutions should be facilitated, not by the preacher, but rather by the coach, as you said, or the game master. So it's not about transferring your own knowledge a lot to the participants, but they sit on quite much knowledge themselves. So ask the right questions, make them feel good, have good learning material. And all solutions are experiential, so they should have plenty of time. That should be the majority of the lesson, I think. Get them started working on something, explore it, make mistakes, have them discuss it from different perspectives, and always in groups, not alone, because this is the way to also practicing teamwork and to create strong teams, and it's more fun as well. So you can simulate pretty much anything, right? Let me show you some example. I just show you this game, right? This is a global manufacturing company. Or if you want to focus on the intangible assets, your people, make sure you attract the best people to your company and make sure they also want to stay working for you. You can play this game. Or why not practicing managing a project management from the start to finish, gain experience from lots of different pitfalls along the way. And my favorite right now, and this we work together with Project U in the Czech Republic, very happy that we have this cooperation. Accelerate your sustainability transformation, learn the sustainability language. And what comes after sustainability? Regeneration, Generation Z. You can simulate anything, but remember, again, based only on information and spoon feeding information, you can't expect people to really change. So it's super simple, really, and this is not our method. A lot of people use this method. There is a cognitive loop. And this is how we build and deliver all our simulations. And if I'm a journalist and I want people to read my article, the first thing I need is, of course, a captivating headline. So if the headline is good, I'll start reading the article. And if the first couple of sentences are good, I will read more. And the same way you should actually teach. So start by creating some kind of motivation, excitement, so that people actually are receivable for information. This is step number 1. That could be to scare them, it could be to paint up a positive picture, but you need to do this before the lesson starts. And also then have the right amount of information packaged in an attractive way and present it in small doses at the right time. And this is where we claim our expertise, right? But that's not enough. If they have the information, they should also get time to explore it. So this is super important. And we want to have this feeling in the room where people stand up and they forget to behave. The true them comes out and they just talk. That buzz, no, we know if that comes out in the room, we know we have succeeded. And all of a sudden, it will be a physical feeling, because once they've seen the big picture, put all the pieces together, they know, they get this aha moment. And this is the first time during the day you can start talking about what you can expect them to do differently, not before this moment. Here they are now ready for change. So it's super important in the last couple of hours to tie it all together, help all the people to make links to their own reality and how they should improve the way they work. That's it, what I have for you. I hope you enjoyed it. This is what we call the power of learning, our learning methodology. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation, and I have to say that I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to have something like this game of entrepreneurial skills in our school, and it was really beneficial for all of us. So I just wanted to highlight your points and say that it's really, really beneficial for all of us. So thank you so much for your presentation, and now we can give the floor to Albena Špásová from Bulgaria. Thank you so much.
I am so excited and happy. How do you feel? Yeah, I see some good energy in the room. But I really like what Hannah said, that we need to be connected. So I will kindly ask you all to stand up, please. I don't know if you had the chance to give a smile to the person next to you, but if you hadn't, just give a smile to each other. Stretch your hands. Feel happy. Embrace the world. Smile. Thank you. You are amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You make me feel happy. We are going to talk about digital well-being. And what a way to start this discussion when we feel great, when we smile to each other. That's the whole purpose of connection, of being together, of sharing. So thank you for that. What am I going to share with you today? I will take you to a journey into a world of data. And I'm so happy to Martin and Hannah for their presentations and the messages that they sent to all of us about the importance of data. I will give you two business examples because I am coming from the business sector. I will give you one example from the music industry. I'm not a singer, as you can see. And I will give you one example from a platform called Netflix that I'm pretty sure all of you or most of you are watching. And then I will try to take those examples in the classroom and see how is it really relating to us and connected with data, why data is important, and what is the role of our well-being throughout this whole process. And what do we do? It's a new topic to all of us, not well-being, but digital well-being. The message that you see behind me, that data is the new gold, is probably nothing new to you. But let me start by taking a step backwards and telling you, how did my day start? I woke up. I usually wake up very early in the morning. I woke up in the morning. I responded to all of my emails. I checked my presentation to see if the public link that I created in Canva is working. Then I had a phone call with my mom, who is an old lady, and waiting for this weekend for me to go home and see her. She's a teacher. I also started my career as a teacher. So my deep appreciation for all of you who are teachers in the room, and thank you for all of your efforts. Then I looked at the news. I checked with my daughter to see how she is. And with all of those actions, I generated tons of data. So if we take that data from our analog world into a digital, from our digital world into our analog world and print it, the data that each of us creates during the day can load more or less 12 trucks, 12 big trucks. if we gather the data that we all create within 1 day only, and if we print it, on that printed walk, we can go to the moon. That's the amount of data that we produce in a day, in a week, in a month. What do we do with it? How do we use it for our well-being, for our digital well-being? Let me tell you these stories. And why am I saying that? I don't know if you know that the alchemists were trying to turn hay into gold. Our mission today will be to turn data into gold, into our school environment. But I will start this journey with these 2 examples that I promised I will give to you. One is about Netflix. I love Netflix. Wherever I travel, I can follow the series that I want to. But one example really stuck with me, and it's an example about the movie House of Cards. Some years ago, it was very popular. I don't know if you watched it, if you enjoy it. But the creators of House of Cards, they were going to every single movie company and saying, hey, we have a new political drama. Do you want to invest in us so we can produce this movie? And all of the movie companies were looking at this and saying, yeah, shit. No one wants to invest in a political drama. We have so many political dramas. But this group happened to go to Netflix. And the head of marketing at Netflix, he knew that people like political drama. He knew that people like the actors that are proposed to be the actors. And he knew that this is going to be a success. And ladies and gentlemen, it was a success. So instead of investing 2 million into a movie that will be broken in different bits and pieces through advertisement, he invested 20 million in that movie and turned it into success. It's an example of how data can run to a good business results, to a success. It's a good example. And I will give you another example. Sony. How many of you know that Sony, some years ago, was a leader in the music industry? When I was a child, there was the mobile tape recorder that Sony produced. And when Sony produced a 2 tapes recorder, that was wow. You can listen to 2 tapes. Probably our kids, they don't even know that that existed. They not only had that, they had the first MP3s at that time. They were leading the music industry. But that is incremental invention that they made. They needed to change the habits of us, of our society, how we consume music in order to stay on the top of the wave. But they were not ready for that. They were saying, who gives a hey about MP3s? Who gives a hey about the internet at all? It's nothing special. I've heard that from LVMH, from all of the luxury brands. I was working for eBay, responsible for their security. They said, who cares about the internet? You guys that you go with these sporty shoes and you don't dress well, are you going to tell us? So Sony, they were thinking the same way. Why should we cannibalize, eat our business and invest into internet models? Well, then, ladies and gentlemen, somebody else came to play, and that somebody was Apple. And Apple, not only that they created the iPod, which was not the best device in the world for music, but was the first device that changed our habits as users, how we consume music. So instead of me going and paying 20 euros for a CD from which I will listen only to one, maybe two songs, I had the opportunity to go into the ecosystem that Apple created, iTunes, and I will spend much more money than the 20 euros, but I will spend it for the music I want. And with this simple decision, Apple kicked Sony out of the music business. Sony wanted to be Apple when that happened, but they didn't do it at the right time. I gave you two examples of how we can use data. One was a positive one. We are using the data to reinvent, to invest, to grow, to be the first one. And I gave you the other examples for the music industry when they didn't use that information. And they said no. And then they were kicked out of the music market. So let's take these stories into a school. If I ask you now, if I say the word school, what do you imagine? Students, thank you. Some of you may imagine a building. It's an entire ecosystem. It's the students, it's the parents, it's the people who work there, it's the teacher, the principals, the guests that are coming, the public authorities that are in. It's an entire ecosystem. And how is everyone in this ecosystem feeling? Do we know? We may have the gut feeling for it based on our experience, but it's bias. It's bias. And it's not real. It's based on our mistakes. It's based on our experiences. Yes, sometimes we may be right. And 99% we may be right. But 1%, if we make a mistake, then we are cooked. And not only we, not me, not you, the entire ecosystem, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we have the data. How do we use it to create a better world? And a better world doesn't mean a perfect world. A better world means more productive world, more connected world that helps all of us grow, that helps me grow, that helps my child grow, helps your child grow, helps every one of us. I don't know if we have chess lovers here, if you like the game of chess, but one of the first books in the world that appeared is a book by an Italian monk that is called The Book of Chess. And I will seek some wisdom into that book. The game chess, and I like what Martin was saying, how important it is for us to play. We all play. We all play from little age to grown-up age. We all play. So the game of chess is not just a game. It's a reflection of the social and political life. And the wisdoms that Chesalis wrote in the first book of chess are actually moral prayers for us, how to be better. And one of the things, you can all see that book online. online, there is the possibility now to access all of the books that you actually wouldn't be able to touch physically because they're too precious. But in that book, one of the wisdoms is about the role of the king. And ladies and gentlemen, we are the kings. We are those who take the decisions for Gen Z. We are the ones who say, this is how you guys are going to study in school. This is what are you going to study in school. And this is how you are going to do it. We are the king. But in the chess game, the king can move fast to the other end of the playground. But then the other pieces, the population, may not follow the king. And that's something that we need to think about. And I will take that to the data, back to the message of data. How do we use the power of people, the power of students, to make education better, more adequate, more adaptive, more flexible, more playful, more cheerful? I know that the first school that was created, children have been beaten in school. And there was even an expression which I can't remember now, because they were beating them with sticks and on the back. We don't do that, ladies and gentlemen, anymore. We need to listen to what our children are telling to us to make education better. And I find this wisdom in the book of chess. Do we really know how our children feel? Do we know what they like? Do we know what they watch? Do we know what they listen to? Do we really know that? Or we think we know that? We do have technology in school. And I'm not going to give you an explanation on how you can use a computer, how you can use the phone, how you can use VR, how you can use AI. We do have technology integrated in every single process in education, from acceptance of new students, through registration, through the learning, through everything. I've been teaching for more than 15 years in France, in Africa, in Asia, and I have been using technology in every single university I've been teaching at. But one thing I really want to share with you about technology is that it helps us grow. It helps us be faster. It helps us be smarter. One example. I'm not a very good Canva user. I had to come and give this speech to you today. Before that, I was on a holiday in Greece with my family, so I came the night before I traveled here. I didn't have the time to prepare a presentation. On the beach, I crafted my thoughts, what I want to share with you on a piece of paper, and then I used ChatGPT, Canva in ChatGPT, and said, please, make a presentation that will include elements of graffiti, that will be focused for teachers, and that needs to have one slide about data, one slide about well-being, one slide about children, students, la 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 la, and this is what it came up with. Not exactly in this shape. I've put the wording because I didn't like what the wording was, but it took me 10 minutes and I got this. And you can all do that. So this is how technology helps us be faster and focus. And then I went to dinner with my daughter. So I did the presentation in 10 minutes and I focused after that to what really matters, to the connection with the person that matters to me and that was close to me. And we can teach digital well-being. We are not in that age when we were beating the students in the school, in the first schools that I gave you the example. How many of you know how the students feel? How many of you are talking about their empathy? How many principals know how the teachers feel? We put new things, new applications, new programs, new methods, but how do teachers feel in this environment? Digital well-being matters, and not only in forbidding the use of a device, in closing the device, in throwing the device, in saying no. No, ladies and gentlemen. When our children will enter the real world, they will need to use the devices. And they will need to be fast. And no one will ask them, do you know how to do that? You can do it or you cannot do it. And you can do it fast or you cannot do it. And you can do it yesterday or you cannot do it. So that's why we need to find space for technology to prepare the students for today, for now, as Hannah said. I put on this screen, on the left-hand side, digital well-being practices, things that we can do. On the right-hand side, or the opposite for you, how we can use technology in the class. It's a new world. And when I was teaching, because I don't teach at the moment at university, I was using gamifications. For example, more than 15 years ago, I was teaching at Lille in the Technical University, and we had our own island in a virtual world that was called Second Life. How many of you know about Second Life? Yeah, I see some colleagues raising hands. It was a virtual world that was so trendy some years ago. IBM, Deutsche Bank, they had their own islands in Second Life. It was a space where you create your avatar. So your avatar can resemble you. So I am a female. My avatar can be a female. I can choose to be a butterfly. I can choose to be a monster, whatever. And we had students in our master's program from all over the world. They were flying into our island where the university was, that resembled the building of the university exactly as it was. And we were able to check their digital skills to see how they are in this virtual world. And that was more than 15 years ago. And you could put even real money into Second Life. So there are lots of opportunities that you can explore and you can choose. And students love it. Students love being in Second Life. There was even a book written about it, and it was about from a Belgian author, and it was about rape that happened in Second Life. There was even in South Korea special forces, like special police forces, that were created to investigate crimes that were happening in virtual worlds. So it's a whole new universe that we can embrace, learn, because that's the language our children are speaking. So where do I come from? I am representing a cluster that brings together technology companies, educational institutions in Bulgaria together. Why we do that? We want to combine what the competencies and the different concepts and culture that these companies are bringing and create meaningful projects. One of these projects that we just created is together with the National Pedagogical Institute about digital well-being that we just submitted to the European Commission, and it is about creating a digital well-being suite that is composed of strategy, a how-to guide for the schools, how to integrate digital well-being into the curriculum, and with some gameful learning materials that can be used to train the teachers and the students, and hopefully we will be successful. So don't hesitate to talk to us. I've put my phone, my email address. I'm very excited and thankful, Irena, for being here today. And let me ask you the question. How do you feel? Should we stand up again? Stretch, stretch, stretch. Sorry if I put some of you to sleep. Smile. Enjoy life. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
So thank you very much for really deep thoughts, and I was keen on listening to all your presentation. Just one mention about the gamification, which was mentioned by Martin as well. You talked about what is that is very important to know how students think about things and what they feel, and lately I used gamification in my lesson. It was some kind of evolutionary game on computer, and it was very entertaining for all of us, and students wanted me to provide them with more games. And I told them, but I don't want you being very competitive. And they told me, but for us the game is not a competition. Whereas for my generation, and I'm the representative of Generation X, the main purpose why playing the game was to win the game. For them, it's just the process of getting experience and getting pleasure from playing the game. So thank you very much, and we can continue, we can go on. Who is the next speaker?
And the next speaker is Balázs Koren from Hungary, and I would really love to invite him.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here, and it was great to listen to the presentations before. It's usually when you put together a presentation, you think about what you want to tell the audience, and then you cross out the slides while you're listening to the presentations before. Okay, this has been told already. This is already done. The next one, it's already done. And a few slides remain. So it's good to be after so great presentations. So the first thing, what we already heard from Hannah about the generations and how these generations think. What's important is when we are talking about education, in the field of education, we still have 45 and 90 minutes lessons. Well, you are laughing. These people, these pupils who are sitting in front of us, they are grown up watching videos, swiping when it's not interesting, and they have to sit there 45 minutes and they cannot swipe us away. We are still there and nothing happens. So therefore we have to bring somehow education to them and help them to understand and to really grasp what is happening on a lesson. Otherwise we are lost them after 5 minutes. And if it's 5 minutes, then you are doing great. So if you lose them before them, then you have to keep it up. If you lose them after 5 minutes, then you need to keep up. So this is the first thing. This is the problem which we have to tackle somehow. And this is where education technology comes in handy. So on the bottom right corner, this is an old game. Yeah, I'm not a young person anymore. This is Super Mario. Super Mario is great. Super Mario survived everything. It's still in, and it's still an amazing game. And even my kids play Super Mario, and it's not because I'm their father and I had to force them to sit down and play Super Mario. They play Super Mario because it's fun. And this is what we have to bring into our classroom and into our thinking. How these people, how these students are thinking about problems. I'm teaching mathematics, so problem solving is a part of my job, part of what I have to somehow convince them to do. And if you look at Super Mario, what is happening? There is Mario. There are those question mark boxes. They have to punch them out. And there are enemies you have to somehow kill, jump on top of them, and so on. And how students, how Generation Z and Alpha students looking at a problem, okay, I have to solve this. I have to try it in a way. And if I don't succeed, then I lose a life. That's it. I restart and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, until I can do it. But the task has to be challenging, has to be something what I want to solve, or has to be something which needs to be solved to achieve a goal. And this is what we have to show them. To solve a quadratic equation, it's not very much a task which they want to do. And it's not something, if they don't see why they need quadratic equations or anything else, name periodic table or whatever, if they don't see how they can use it, how it's beneficial to them, then they won't do it. It's the same thing. Do I have to kill this turtle to get to the flag at the end of this game? Yeah, then I have to do it. I do it. It's not the fun killing the turtle and jumping on top of it. The fun is to solve this field and go to the next level and let Mario grow and collect more coins and so on. When we get to the educational field and get into the classroom, education technology can help us to really move things forward. Besides teaching, I'm working with the EdTech Coalition in Hungary, and we are helping education EdTech companies, educational institutes, even government entities to work together and somehow put their minds together. We are not entirely successful yet, but we are working on it to put these all entities together and form a coalition, go into the way to bring 21st century education into the classrooms. We still have chalk and blackboards in the classrooms. Yeah, this is what our grandparents used to use. And the word completely changed since then. So what do we do? For example, this is an example on the left-hand side. It's a Hungarian EdTech startup called Motimor. And there are lots of other EdTech startups, luckily, who are growing in Hungary. And what this startup does and how they got popular in Hungary, because they got rid of the punishment from the classroom. And they were going into the direction to give points, to give scores. So basically, they converted the classroom into a game. And this is what Gen Z and Gen Alpha students need, that they really know, okay, I can score points. I can get more points by solving this task. And again, think about the turtle. It's not about killing the turtle. It's about getting points, getting coins for it, for doing it. And what Motimor does, you can do the same thing in an Excel sheet, for example. It's just more fun having an application for this to score points. And you can go on and continue why these things are good in the classroom. Okay, now I can switch. Perfect. Again, what can you do? What can you bring into the classroom? There is the XR. XR stands for anything, basically VR, AR, and so on. Probably you remember there were these cardboards where you could put in your smartphone, and putting in your smartphone, you could experience VR. Currently, we do have space technology. Albena was talking about Apple. Apple just invented these new glasses, the Vision Pros, and there are Microsoft's HoloLenses and so on. There is enormous jump in technology, what we could bring into classroom. Obviously, we cannot bring in 2, 3, 4, 5,000 USD worth glasses into classroom and give students, okay, play with it. But still, the technology is enhancing and running ahead. And back in the days, when we think about why education was invented to prepare ourselves to the challenges of the world. And currently, if you sit in a classroom, we experience, imagine the classroom, and during the previous presentation, it's like a museum. It's like going back in time. But classrooms shouldn't be that. Classrooms should be preparing for the current world, for the 21st century. And VR and AR experiencing the outer world, doing various interesting stuff in the VR space and in the AR space. This is something which you can do. And obviously, we can go in the high end and buy very expensive materials, or we can go into the low end and just grab a smartphone, grab a tablet, it has a camera, and all of a sudden, using applications like GeoGebra, you can put a cube into this space, move around it, and get an experience for the students where they really can touch or almost touch the objects, what they are learning about. Okay, yeah, I've been talking about the Hungarian edtech scene. This is something which is getting into the growth in Hungary. I just put some of the edtech companies over there. It was when I put in the first 2, then 3 more appeared, and then right now I know 3 more which should be on the list, and I strongly apologize by that Hungarian companies who are not on the list. What we do have is that the need that education technology should be in the classroom is what it's getting growing and growing in Hungary. Obviously, we use Kahoot, we use all of the international success players into the classroom, but there are some kind of methods, some kind of ways where there is something which is needed for the Hungarian audience, for the Hungarian crowd. And what's interesting in this field, the Czech crowd, the Czech classrooms, the Slovak classroom, the Romanian classroom, Bulgarian classrooms, and I could continue, they're not much different. And what's always, some of you are sitting here with your headphones on your ears, and that's the same thing, that's important, that education technology should come to the kids in their own language. Because some of us speak English, which is good, but I was asked when our first children were raised, and some families in Hungary do that they speak English to their kids because they think then they are going to grow into English and they are going to have a much better English. And they told, you speak quite good English. Why don't you talk English to your kids? And I was, no, that's not my native language. I cannot giggle and say stuff to my own sons and daughters, no, I have to use my native language, my mother tongue. And that's the same in classroom, even especially with the younger generations, with the younger kids. In secondary school, you can teach bilingual and so on, but for the younger students, you need native language, and that's when all the native applications and the native edtech solutions come in handy. One last thought, it's going to be a longer thought, but bear with me. Artificial intelligence. We heard that a presentation can be done in a matter of seconds using ChatGPT, for example. Artificial intelligence is something which we have to follow what is happening. Since November 2022, the word basically changed. Lots of things are different right now because artificial intelligence is there in the classroom. We cannot close the doors anymore. We could have said, smartphones, okay, leave your smartphones outside, that's it. Problem solved, chalk and blackboard, we can use the same traditional solutions in education. You cannot do it anymore with artificial intelligence present, because you give homework and it's AI is going to solve the homeworks. Obviously, you can have AI which is going to correct the homework which AI solved by the children, which is good, but we took out the sense of education where we are doing things. So AI completely reshapes the landscape of education. It's how we do AI, that's okay, but one last slide. I didn't measure the time, but I feel like I have to come to the end. What's important, this is on the left-hand side. Every time I'm talking about AI and education, this is what I put up, and I think this flowchart is one of the most important things in the age of AI. The flowchart on the left-hand side, it appeared in an UNESCO ChatGPT for Higher Education booklet. So it says, is it safe to use ChatGPT for your work? And any large language model, Gemini and whatever, you can substitute in there. And it says, start, and I start there. And the first question is, does it matter if the output is right or correct? And if it doesn't matter, then it's obviously safe to use ChatGPT. Anything can come out, and you're going to be happy. If it matters, then the second and very important question pops up. Do you have the expertise to determine whether the output is correct or not? If you have the expertise, then you can continue. And then the third question appears, are you willing to have to take the responsibility of what comes out? And these are basically, the first question is obvious. The reason I'm using ChatGPT because I want something which is true. But the second and the third question is very important. The second question shows us that ChatGPT and AI won't replace teachers, because you have to have the knowledge to determine, to be able to determine whether ChatGPT is correct or not. So teachers are needed more than ever in the age of AI. The second thing which is important, that AI can enhance our knowledge, can make us better, can make us faster. For example, doing a presentation or correcting tests or preparing lessons and so on. You can name any example in this sense. But the third question is important. When a student hands in the homework and they used AI, why not? Then they are going to write their name on top of the sheet and going to hand it in. And then, because their names are on the sheet, they are going to take full responsibility what's in there. If AI is incorrect, hallucinates, or does any kind of weird stuff, then it's going to be their homework or their work what they hand in. And it's the same for us. If I'm putting together a test using ChatGPT and it's garbage in there, then I cannot tell the students, okay, sorry, we skipped a test today because ChatGPT had a bad day yesterday. No, you have to take full responsibility of what are you working with ChatGPT or any kind of AI. Yeah, thank you very much, and have a great conference.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have one question about using IA. In fact, I cannot imagine my life without using it. But maybe what is special for Czech educational environment is that students typically using IA while cheating. So I think it's very important to make them know when, if it is possible, to use IA and when not. And one more thing is about using technologies, because when you were talking about the headphones on heads of our students, I started to think about kind of useless using of technologies, because sometimes some companies, computer companies, provide schools with amazing opportunities to build something, for example, to build super modern language laboratories. The basic principle is that there is a room full of computers and students are sitting in front of computers with headphones and they are randomly or manually connected to each other and speaking using microphones and headphones. And my question is, wouldn't it be better to just sit down at the school garden and to speak each other and listen to each other?
Yeah, thank you very much. Both questions are great. So I'll start with the second one. Technology is only good if it really helps. If I bring in screens, if we have a conversation, for example, sitting, grabbing a beer, and there is a TV on, look at the people. They are sitting around the table and not looking at each other, but looking at the screen. The same thing happens in a classroom. Once you bring in technology, it is going to get the attention of the students. So if you bring in technology and the technology gets their attention, then technology has to be beneficial for their learning. Otherwise, strike it out, strip it out, and do not use any kind of technology. But if you don't use technology, then the current generation, you either have to be super amazing and funny and be the best stand-up comedist in the classroom, or you have to bring in something to help out to get them a better understanding. And to the first question, yeah, students are going to use AI, and we are using AI, and cheating with AI, this is the most difficult question nowadays. Okay, are they cheating? It shouldn't be cheating. It's we again. Is it cheating to get here to Pilsen from Budapest by an airplane? I'm much faster than walking. It's not cheating. It's allowed because nobody was telling me that I'm not allowed to fly. Although I had the experience by the delays that it might have been faster by walking. But it's again, the technology changes our living, how we do things. So if AI is there and there's a possibility to use AI, then we have to teach them how to use AI, not punish and say, okay, it's cheating. No, it's there. It's there for their advantage. But what I usually do when I bring in calculators to my math classes, I do tell my students, get out your calculator, type in 70 factorial. 70 factorial is a too big number. It won't fit on the screen in a normal calculator. So what is going to happen, they're going to get an error message. Usually the class is completely silent and they are like typing. Oh, what's going on? And one hand raises, sir, I got an error. Maybe I did something wrong. No, you didn't do something wrong. That's the capacity of your calculator. It cannot handle it. So there are devices, there are edtech solutions, there is AI which has boundaries. So we have to show them what these technologies, what these devices are capable of and what they are not capable of, where they can use it to their benefit and they shouldn't use it. And if we showed it to them, then we are going to have a great classroom.
So thank you very much. So still I am able to imagine the situation why losing IA is cheating, but we can discuss this later.
I would really love to thank to all of our international guests. It was really nice experience having you here. Thanks for coming to Plzeň. And now I would like to ask Irena to close up this whole international block.
Dobré dopoledne. Já moc děkuji našim zahraničním hostům a ráda bych udělala malé shrnutí a doporučila za Národní pedagogický institut jedno řešení, které naštěstí má všechny ty atributy, o kterých jsme dopoledne slyšeli. Je vhodné jak pro vás, tak pro generaci Z, pracuje s umělou inteligencí a týká se dokladování našich dovedností a vzdělání. Na úvod vás tedy poprosím využít vaše digitální dovednosti, naskenovat si QR kód a podělit se s námi o vaši zkušenost, kde vy sami si ukládáte vaše doklady ze vzdělání, kde máte svůj diplom, kde máte svoje certifikáty, záznamy ze školení, BOZP, všechny ty důležité věci, které říkají, jak jste šikovní, co umíte. Ve skříni, ano, šanon, šuplík, ano, krása. Počítač, lepší, děkujeme, dostáváme se do současného století. Google Disk, ano, děkuji, LinkedIn. To jste otevření své prezentaci, sdílení dat. Doma v kopii vše. Blockchain, ano, děkuji. OneDrive, také progresivní. Europass, děkuji. Doufám, že je to někdo z našich kolegů, zdravím. A nebo ze škol, co už jsme přesvědčili. Tak to je úžasné. Blog. Ale šuplík stále převládá, dobře. Tak tato prezentace má ještě smysl, přestože přetékáme lehce už do přestávky. Já vám moc krát děkuji, doufám, že to tady ještě zůstane na těch postranních obrazovkách a pustíme se do krátkého představení. My jsme za Národní pedagogický institut vybrali něco velice praktického, co si můžete vyzkoušet hned teď. Je tam pár QR kódů a vybrali jsme to proto, že nejenom ty dovednosti je důležité získat, ale potom je důležité je taky umět ukázat, prezentovat se, prodat a doložit včas. Naštěstí na trh práce přichází generace Z s tím, co umí, a mezi generací Z se v podstatě objevují už i mladí učitelé, takže my potřebujeme pro trh práce vlastně prezentovat, co kdo umí, co se kdo naučil novou a flexibilní formou. Součástí Národního pedagogického institutu je tedy i Národní centrum Europass, stejně tak jako ve všech zemích Evropské unie. To znamená, že to, co tady budu teď říkat, platí pro všechny jazyky Evropské unie, všechny země a jsem ráda, že to právě zastřešuje i Evropský rok dovedností, že ty dovednosti snad budeme umět i lépe prezentovat. Tak, Europass jako pojem se dříve pojil hlavně k životopisu a vlastně ke způsobu toho, jak životopis a dovednosti strukturovat. Naštěstí všechny služby Europassu po roce 2020 prošly prudkou digitalizací a v současné chvíli nejenom, že tedy využíváme online zabezpečené digitální prostředí, ale je tam výhoda té vícejazyčnosti a v podstatě srozumitelnosti, snadného ovládání. Když říkám, že to prošlo digitalizací, tak jsou nutné vstupní digitální dovednosti, je tam i test digitálních dovedností, ale z toho, co máme zkušenosti na základních a středních školách, tak všichni z generace Z a generace Alfa na to stačí. Takže se nebojte to využívat pouze s klienty, u kterých si nejsme jistí, tak jdeme nejdřív na ten test digitálních dovedností a potom teprve dál, aby se s tím netrápili. V současné chvíli je totiž centrem a takovým srdcem Europassu profil a portfolio. A to už je také něco, co kolegové prezentovali v souvislosti i s tím experimentálním učením, aby to bylo zajímavé a vlastně hlavně digitální a žáci, ale i vy, to můžete mít všechno na dosah ve svém telefonu. Tak, ráda bych poukázala tedy na portfolio Europassu a doklady o stáži. Když jsem hledala data, co vlastně očekávají mladí lidé od kariérového vzdělávání, od toho, že jim někdo poradí, jak se prezentovat, tak jsou to tyto atributy. Já myslím, že vás to nepřekvapí. Individualizace, praktičnost, online, ale i souvislost s trendy. Tak my se teď podíváme, jestli tam všechno z toho je. Tak vidíme online forma, vícejazyčnost, ale i záznamy toho, co právě propojuje nejenom formální, ale i neformální vzdělávání, záznamy jakýchkoliv dovedností, školních projektů, soutěží. To všechno tam lze dát. My se zabýváme i spoluprací s dobrovolnickými organizacemi, centry a aktivitami, tak, aby tam šla zaznamenat i tato činnost. A takhle už to vypadá. Profil Europassu, kdo chcete, můžete si naskenovat, vyzkoušet. V podstatě to vypadá jako takový životopis, ale ten profil je záznam všeho toho, co jste se kdy naučili a z toho vy vybíráte potom do životopisů a dalších služeb. Fajn je i to sdílení, že vlastně žák, když si vytvoří svoje portfolio, tak může snadno sdílet s učitelem, že tam něco nového třeba má uloženého a tím to nezakládá další práci učiteli. Ale učitel si to snadno zkontroluje, veškerá práce, odpovědnost, ale i data jsou na žákovi. Výhodou je také to, že ta data jsou opravdu zabezpečená. Vy si můžete Europass portfolio představit jako takovou bezpečnostní schránku. Kdo chce, nastaví si tam dvoufázové ověřování, to znamená, že je to něco podobného, jako když vstupujete do svého účtu online v bance. A jak říkala Albena, ta data jsou opravdu základem a je to to nejdražší, co v dnešním digitálním světě máme, takže kdo se nechce vystavovat třeba veřejně na LinkedIn nebo na jiné platformy, mít svoje data na Google, protože potom ta data opravdu nepatří vám, ale patří Google, tak můžete mít zabezpečená data například zde. Ty služby jsou zdarma a Evropská komise je garantuje dlouhodobě. V současné chvíli se bavíme o 30 let dopředu garantovatelnosti. To znamená, že toto není projekt, který s koncem financování skončí. My to prezentujeme právě proto, že ve školách to smysl má a že tam vlastně každý má to svoje zabezpečené místo. Je to evropská služba pro všechny občany na území Evropské unie. Zmiňovala jsem propojení s neformálním vzděláváním, se zájmy. To všechno tam je. Možnost vybírat si dovednosti, popisovat svoje zájmy, ale i sledovat trendy v dovednostech, zaměstnání a podobně. Tvorba životopisů, to je jedna z funkcí, ale i úložiště, kde právě můžete mít všechny svoje certifikáty, fotky, odkazy. Vždycky hledám potom závěrečné zprávy z projektu, to se někde založí, ztratí, zapomene a tady to může být. Zatím to úložiště je poměrně velké, není teda na videa, ale je minimálně na ty odkazy. Tak a takhle už to vypadá, když vám třeba váš žák nasdílí to, co tam má, přes zabezpečený odkaz. Ten odkaz může být na den, na týden, na měsíc a potom je to zase pouze vaše. Takže vidíte, že tam je životopis, dodatek osvědčení ze střední školy, doklad o stáži, certifikát digitálních dovedností. Tak to už je pěkná sbírka. Popis dovedností je něco, na co pustili z Evropské komise AI. To vám samo nabízí podle toho, co máte za zájmy, co byste měli, chtěli, a je to skládačka. Nikdo tam nesedí nad prázdnou obrazovkou a nevymýšlí, co teda já umím, co mám za zájmy. Je to skládačka. Vybíráte si. To mě baví potom ve třídách zkoušet. Za tou terminologií, která vlastně to překládá do všech těch jazyků, je databáze ESCO. Naštěstí je dost velká, umí hodně digitálních i zelených dovedností. Postupně to doplňují, investují do toho. Takže jsme rádi, že to funguje. S čím máme zkušenosti, a je to trošku škoda, že vlastně vaši žáci a absolventi z těch neformálních programů tak je vůbec nenapadne, že tu dlouhodobou zkušenost, že jsou vedoucí u vás kroužků, že s něčím pomáhají, že je vůbec nenapadne si to dát jako pracovní zkušenost do životopisu. Přitom i neplacená práce je práce a přináší pracovní zkušenosti. A možná ty, které potom rozhodují více o té kariéře, než těch 20%, co si pamatujeme ze školy. Tak, tohle je druhá věc, kterou chci zmínit, než už musíme teda na přestávku, je doklad o stáži, což je vlastně forma ocenění za školní projekt, za nějakou zájmovou činnost, za soutěž, za něco zajímavého, co se žákům podaří. A jsou to v podstatě ty body, ty pointy, které my rádi sbíráme v těch hrách. To je ono. Prosím, vyzkoušejte to se žáky. Oni si to mohou předvyplnit sami, vy to pouze digitálně podepíšete nebo najdete partnera. Výhody, tam jsme to dotáhli do PDF, aby se to dalo snadno editovat a zase uložit do portfolia Europasu. Já jsem nyní tlačená časem, takže kromě toho, že se můžete obrátit na naše klientské centrum, jsem ještě chtěla poděkovat našim partnerům a kouknout se do budoucna, i když myslím, že už to přejmenujeme, ne na dovednosti budoucnosti, jak říkala Hanka, ale hlavně říct to, že my se snažíme jako Národní pedagogický institut tyto dovednosti, které jsou potřeba pro trh práce už teď, v podstatě analyzovat, reflektovat, propojovat do nových rámcových vzdělávacích programů, ale hlavně experimentovat v nich a hledat partnery. Proto jsem moc ráda, že jsou tady se mnou kolegové z Project U a ráda vás s nimi seznámím. Děkuji i partnerům z EdTech klastru z Bulharska a z Maďarska, že sem vážili cestu, protože pro tyto nové měkké, digitální, zelené dovednosti je prostě potřeba experimentovat, jít dál, bavit se s lidmi, s firmami a vlastně hledat ty nové způsoby, na které ten velký těžkopádný vzdělávací systém nestačí. A pokud se něco z toho vám podaří popsat a uložit si do Europasu, budeme jedině rádi. Já už nechci protahovat svůj příspěvek, abychom mohli mít přestávku, ale moc vám všem děkuji. Doufám, že to pro vás bylo zajímavé a těším se třeba na setkání na některých akcích Europasu. Hezký den.
My moc děkujeme, paní Palánová. Já ten příspěvek trošku protáhnu ještě. Teďko vystoupím ze své role moderátora a budu k vám hovořit jako ředitel školy, protože my máme v škole předmět, který se jmenuje OSR, žáci někdy tomu říkají OSR, ale snažíme se to nevnímat. A v rámci toho OSR žáci vyplňují svá portfolia. A my jsme hledali nějakou vhodnou platformu, tak já bych vás potom rád propojil s naší kariérovou poradkyní, protože tohle vypadá úplně skvěle, že by to mohlo splnit naše požadavky. A druhá věc je, my pracujeme s portfolii už, nevím, jestli těch středních škol v Plzeňském kraji více, na vstupu. Jako při přijímačkách, že chceme ze žáků od základní škol, aby dokládali portfolio. Zrovna včera jsem do druhého kola nějaká opravoval a je tam ta variabilita velká. Někdo dal v Europasu a někdo to měl ručně psané na psacím stroji. Protože my jsme si zatím nedovolili sjednotit tu formu těch portfolií, protože se nám zdá, že bychom mohli někoho třeba znevýhodňovat. Tak já věřím, že se to rozšíří na ty základní školy jako velmi intenzivně a rychle, tak abychom už třeba příští rok mohli v DIPSi číst jenom ty elektronické verze toho Europasu a nemuseli jsme si to tisknout a podobně. Tak jo, děkuju.
Taky děkuju.
Taky moc děkuju za příspěvek. Europass je určitě něco, co bychom rádi jako studenti využívali. I proto jsme zahrnuli Europass prezentaci na naší mezinárodní konferenci.